On the edge of Griffith Park, high above the lights and chaos of Los Angeles, the Hollywood sign stands still and silent, its giant white letters watching over a city built on dreams. Tourists flock there every day. They take photos, hike trails, and marvel at the view. But if you ask around long enough, especially among locals who've been here for decades, you'll start to hear a different kind of story. One that doesn't show up in travel brochures, a quieter, sadder one. They'll tell you about the girl who jumped, and if you listen closely, some will say she never really left. Her name was Peg Entwistle. She wasn't a star, not in the way most people think of them, but she was chasing that title with everything she had. Born in Wales in 1908 and raised in New York after her mother's death, Peg grew up around the theater. Her father was an actor himself, and after his passing, she pursued performance with a kind of urgency. She studied under renowned acting coaches, trained in repertory theater, and by her early 20s, she had earned critical acclaim on the New York stage. Broadway had taken notice. Like many rising talents, Peg eventually set her sights westward. The motion picture industry was booming in Los Angeles, and what New York offered in prestige, Hollywood promised in opportunity. So she packed up, left the stage behind, and headed for California, hoping to translate her theatrical success into screen stardom. But Hollywood isn't kind to everyone who knocks on its door. Peg signed a contract with RKO Pictures and landed a supporting role in the film 13 Women, opposite Irene Dunne. It was a psychological thriller, and Peg's performance, though small, was professional. Still, when the studio trimmed the film's runtime after poor test screenings, most of her scenes were cut. By the time it hit theaters, her role had all but vanished, and not long after, so had her contract. The rejection hit her hard. She was in her mid-20s, alone in a city that thrived on image and connection. Without a contract, without a support system, and with the disappointment of her first film behind her, the silence that followed must have been crushing. There was no social media, no independent film scene, no safety net. You either made it or you didn't. And for Peg, the city was making it clear. Her time was up. On the night of September 16, 1932, Peg left her uncle's home in Beechwood Canyon, telling him she was going for a walk. That was nothing unusual. She often took strolls to clear her mind. But this time, she walked up the steep path behind her uncle's house, a trail that led directly to the base of the Hollywoodland sign, the original version of what we now call the Hollywood sign. It was made of steel and wood, erected in 1923 as a temporary real estate advertisement. It wasn't meant to last, but by the time Peg climbed it, it had already become a symbol for something much bigger: fame, hope, illusion. She made her way to the letter H, using a workman's ladder that had been left leaning against the structure. Then, standing nearly 50 feet above the ground, she jumped. She was found 2 days later. A hiker discovered a woman's shoe, purse, and jacket in the brush, and a note inside the bag, signed with her initials, P.E. Authorities quickly put the pieces together. Her body was later located further down the slope. The note was brief but devastating. "I am afraid I am a coward," it read. "I am sorry for everything. If I had done this a long time ago, it would have saved a lot of pain." News spread fast. The city had seen its share of tragedies, but something about this one struck a nerve. Maybe it was the location. Maybe it was the symbolism. A young woman chasing fame dies beneath the very sign that lured her there. Peg was instantly mythologized. The press dubbed her the Hollywood Sign Girl, and suddenly she was more famous in death than she had been in life. But over time, the public fascination shifted. The story stopped being just about Peg Entwistle. It became something else: an urban legend, a ghost story, a local myth. Park rangers started reporting strange encounters. People hiking alone at dusk claimed they saw a woman in 1930s clothing wandering the trail near the sign. When approached, she would vanish. Others swore they caught the smell of gardenias, her favorite perfume, drifting on the wind with no flowers in sight. Still, there was no violence in these accounts, no anger, no screaming, just an overwhelming sadness, a feeling that someone was still there, still waiting, still unfinished. And then, as time passed, the story began to warp. It happens with all urban legends. The further they get from the truth, the more dramatic they become. At some point, someone added a scream to the story, a piercing, desperate wail that echoed through the hills on quiet nights. The Hollywood Hills Siren, they called it. But that scream wasn't part of Peg Entwistle's story. Not factually. There were no police reports, no 911 calls, no witnesses who ever claimed to hear it when she jumped. Her death was silent. The scream came later, likely invented, a way to add fear to a tragedy that was already painful enough. The truth is, Peg Entwistle didn't haunt Hollywood because of how she died. She haunted it because of what she represented. A young woman with real talent, chewed up by a system that promised everything and delivered nothing. A cautionary tale wrapped in soft lighting and heartbreak. Her ghost wasn't malevolent, it was mournful. To this day, hikers still leave flowers at the base of the sign. Some still claim to feel a presence. And though the Hollywood sign has been restored, modernized, and fenced off, its shadows still hold on to the past. Peg's name lives on, not in box office records, not in Hollywood Walk of Fame stars, but in whispers. Whispers about what it costs to chase a dream in a place that feeds on them. Hollywood didn't kill Peg Entwistle, but it didn't save her either. And in a city that's always moving forward, hers is one of the few stories that refuses to be forgotten.